All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do a little live stream here. I'm also gonna be live streaming on my Instagram. Let me just make sure everything's going and looking good before I get into it and start kind of tinkering with this sculpture. Okay. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Just making sure that the audio's going. If there's any issue with the live stream, okay, I'm hearing that, so that should be good to go. And I'm also streaming on my YouTube channel. If you guys aren't subscribed over on my YouTube channel, that is where the stream will be afterwards. I'll try to put it up here as well. So I'm going to be kind of working on this sculpture. I'm not going to be using the references right now. I just need to do some work to fix it. I recently moved, and so I had to take this sculpture, wrap it up, and it got kind of damaged, so I'm just kind of redoing some of the work. If you're on Instagram and you have a question, you can hit the little question mark icon and ask those questions. That way it won't get lost in the comments and in the kind of the feed of people coming in and out. If you're on YouTube, feel free to ask any questions and I'll try to monitor those as well. And we'll just go ahead and get going and try to get some work done on this sculpture. The main thing that I need to do is, I don't know if you can see, maybe it's a little bit easier to see on YouTube, is that the sculpture is not attached to the bottom very well. And so I just need to attach it so that it's not swinging around, moving around. And to do that, I'm gonna kind of trim down the base and then reattach it. This sculpture was done during the last competition that we did, the online figure sculpture competition. It was really fun. And there's going to be another competition that'll be done this time through my Patreon. So if you're interested in that, there's a video up on my YouTube channel that explains what that will be and how that'll work. And so hopefully, if you like sculpting, I want to try to start a sculpting group over on my Patreon where we can all sculpt together and practice and learn and keep improving on our sculptures. So that's the goal, is to just get better little by little. So I forgot that this base is actually full of wood. It's actually like floor samples that I got from Home Depot that they give away just as floor samples, and I use those all the time for little gesture studies and things like that. So I thought it was just solid clay, but now I'm remembering that I filled it with something, so I won't be able to make it too much smaller, but I do want to grab some of this clay off and then redo the base a little bit, and so that I can attach it down to the baseboard. And this sculpture, I had a goal to only work on this sculpture during live streams, like that I can't work on this unless I'm doing a live stream, just kind of as a way to motivate myself to do more live streams. But the reference images, I have those on my iPad and it's not charged right now, so I won't be working from reference images. I might tinker with it a little bit, but generally you don't want to do too much work, especially if you want it to be close to the references, if you're not looking at the references. So I'm just gonna see where I want it. I think right about there is good, and I'm gonna go ahead and start pressing down some clay to the base as a foundation to attach this onto. So the next competition is starting on Monday. It's a competition or a challenge. I'm calling this one a challenge just because it's more about just having a group of people sculpting the same thing at the same time and just having fun and trying to produce more sculptures. And so if you're interested in that, if you'd like to join, go over and subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell. And then early Monday, I will release a video that talks about the challenge, and you can get going, and you'll have 2 weeks to sculpt, to do the sculpture, and then after those 2 weeks, submit it, and then there'll be a judging video where I'll go through and choose the ones that I think captured what I was going for the assignment the best. And then I'll be doing additional live streams of how I would approach this type of sculpture, and we'll do one of these types of challenges every 4 weeks. So we'll do 2 weeks on, 4 weeks off, and that way I have time to work on my other projects, but then also we can regularly do some sculpting together with people from hopefully from all over the world, and just create a sculpture group of people trying to learn and grow and sculpt together. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can join my Patreon page for as little as $5 a month. $5 a month, and you get all the information on these types of competitions and to participate and be eligible for the prizes and everything. If you're at $10 a month, then you get exclusive access to all of those videos that are just for my Patreon patrons. And then at oh wait, let me get some more clay. And so $10 a month, you get access to all of my Patreon content. And then if you're at $15 a month, then you can get specific feedback on your sculptures, and that's helpful. And some people have asked for that, and so that's kind of the premium tier over on my Patreon page, to get some notes back as you do these sculpting assignments. So if that's something you're interested in, I hope you'll check that out. There's links in my bio if you're on Instagram, or if you're on YouTube. I think there's also, you can go to the profile page, and there's also links that has all of my links, and that'll be done through the Andrew Joseph Keith YouTube channel. And so, yeah, if you're into sculpting, figure sculpting, portrait sculpting, there's going to be challenges to help us all practice and get better together. Let's see, I need to rebalance this a little bit because things are a little bit off. I want to make sure I'm not sculpting in a way where things are drastically off kilter. That looks about right. And okay, so that's looking better with the base, and it's feeling more solid already. So that base is not swinging around like it was. And let me just reattach the feet and other things. And then maybe I'll try to clean up some of the damage that was done as we were moving. And that's just something that happens, so there's almost always something to fix or clean up when you're sculpting. Well, if it gets damaged. If you don't damage it, then there's nothing to fix. But fixing is a lot faster than the sculpting originally, I found. For some reason, even if your sculpture like falls over, I had that happen once during a competition where it was like a half life-size sculpture, so a giant sculpture, water-based clay, really soft, and I had my sculpture table, but then I didn't realize that it was like untwisting as I was turning it, and it completely untwisted and fell off, and then I had to fix it afterwards, but fixing it wasn't too bad. So and it was fun. That was the first Figure Sculptors United competition, and since then I've moved away from Utah to Iowa, so I don't know if I'll be able to participate in those other competitions. They're held in Utah, so we'll have to see. But they were fun competitions for sure. Though if I can make the trip, I love those types of competitions, being able to be around other sculptors. It's really a unique experience and very beneficial to be able to learn and sculpt with other people that are good at what they do. Okay. Let me see. Oh, okay, there we go. So, somebody on YouTube is asking when can I compete? Yeah, we'll be starting on Monday. I'll release the video Monday, and it'll talk about the next challenge, sculpture challenge. I'm calling them challenges instead of, some people said they didn't like competitions, and so I'm going to call it a challenge, but you can think of it as a competition, and that'll start on Monday, August 14th, 2023, and it should be a fun time for everybody to sculpt. I'll be doing some more live streams next week as well, sculpting the same thing with you guys, and then on the 28th or around then, I might do a little bit longer, so I might have it be 2 weekends, so it might be after the 28th, like the 30th or 31st of, is there the 31st of August? I don't know. Anyway, after the 2 weeks are up, then I'll release a video announcing the winners for that competition. And this one, there's no cash prizes. The other one had cash prizes. This one I'm just doing myself personally, and I kind of want to try to grow my Patreon. And right now it's, it's small, so it's something I gotta grow before I can justify paying. But I'd love to, if these competitions grow and there's enough participants, I'd love to start doing cash prizes for the winners, or other maybe sculptures as prizes that I can send out to you guys or something like that. I think would be really fun. Maybe I'll sculpt a trophy, and then that'll be sent out to the winner of these competitions with a little plaque or something. But there will be some sort of maybe it'll be a certificate or something, just to say to talk about the winners, something the winners can have. So yeah, if you're watching on YouTube and you have any questions, let me know. And then again on Instagram, if you push a little question mark, that way your questions won't get lost in the feed. And I'm just going to be kind of fixing this up. You can see some of the areas like here under the legs where it was damaged. Something hit it, so I'm just gonna kind of fix those areas. This clay is kind of interesting. This is non-dry modeling clay I got from Dollar Tree, and then I melted down all but the darkest colors. It came in a bunch of colors, but I melted everything except for the very darkest colors, and it gave me this nice brown. And after a while, after like a week or so, it gets this really like shiny, glossy look, like it's wet, like it's water-based clay and it's really wet. And so that's kind of nice. But then after you work it, like you can see when I press my fingerprints and work the clay a little bit, it's kind of more of a dull color. So I don't know what I prefer, the glossy or the dull. Probably the dull, like brown that's not so shiny. And here's some more damage. Oh, I forgot I was gonna add some clothing to this model. Let's go ahead and add some underwear. So, because Instagram, I guess I've gotten like dinged a bunch on Instagram for some of the posts I've done with the undraped sculpture. So let's go ahead and add some drapery. We'll add some underwear or something. And Instagram right now, they basically came out and said that they won't show my work to anybody that's not already a follower of mine on Instagram. And then even to my followers, they only show it to like 10% or something of your followers when you do a post, unless it's like it's a post that people really like, and then they'll show it to a few more. But they've said, oh, your posts won't show up on search or anything They didn't say like specifically why or which post got me banned from search, which is kind of annoying. And so I do not like that, but I guess that's just part of social media these days. Is you never know when you're gonna get kicked off or they change the rules or things like that. Oh, somebody had a question. Let's see. Where do you find resources like entering competitions, retreats, grants, etc.? That's a great question. So I am trying to start the sculpture group through my Patreon to do more online challenges and competitions and things like that. There's also artist. What is it? It's like Art Cafe. What is it called? Something Cafe, Artist Cafe or something like that. And that's where you can find a lot of like competitions or commissions that people are looking for sculptures and things like that. Artist Cafe or something like that. And there's that. There's also the podcast. I think he's taken a break from it, but there was the podcast that was the sculptor's funeral podcast, and that podcast was all about sculpture and kind of the classical sculptors and really interesting. And the guy would always try to announce when there was sculpture events or things like that around the world. And yeah, I have gone to different sculpture events, and they're definitely very beneficial. So I definitely recommend if you have something going on in your area and you can make the sacrifice to do it, then I would definitely recommend, because there's something about being there in person. But then that's not possible for everybody, which is why I want to start this online sculpture group through my Patreon page. So, and if I need to do some research on that where I can find more information about current competitions and grants and things like that. If I find a resource, I'll try to put out that information on my Patreon. So I would go over, and if you can, for $5 a month, join the Patreon and start participating in these challenges that we're doing starting Monday. I would try to do that. If you can't afford that $5 a month, then I definitely recommend the Proco 3D YouTube channel to learn as much as you can and do those exercises on your own. And those lessons are all free, and so I think that's a good resource. And I will let you know on my social media accounts if I'm doing competitions like the last one that we did, which had, that one was sponsored by a few different sponsors, and we were able to have prizes of, there was like $1,000 of cash prizes. I think the first place was like $750, and then second was like $150, and third was $100 or something like that. And so that was fun to be able to do some cash prizes. I'll have to talk to the sponsors again. Maybe we could do another competition with cash prizes in the near future, because it was a fun sculpting event, the last one. And I think the sponsors felt that it was worthwhile, though I guess the real test is if I asked them to do it again, would they do it again? Was it, because it was like $250 from each sponsor as well as from myself. And then obviously if you're sponsoring something, you want to see a little boost in sales or something from people that are purchasing your product afterwards. And so I tried to advertise. There was the posespace.com, which does reference images for artists and especially sculptors, because they're turnaround poses. You get like the pose from many different angles. So they provided the reference images for this sculpture competition that we did. Let me add I forgot about I was going to add underwear on it, so let's do that. And then there was also the DaVinci Eye app, which was another sponsor, and they're a great tool for artists as well. And they allow you to check your sculptures by overlaying the reference images that you have with the images of the sculpture. So I definitely recommend those two sponsors. They're both great sponsors. There, now it's a draped sculpture. So, but it might be too late on Instagram. Okay, let's see. As far as fixing things, this down a little bit. I'm mostly working on the base. That was my goal, is to kind of fix the base. So let me get it a little bit more clean. And clean up this base that I'm doing just a little bit more, so I don't have to worry about it distracting from the figure. That was something, one of the competitions I got dinged. Well, the judges came after and told me that that I wasn't in the running because I didn't have a base on my sculpture out of clay. I just did it right on the wood, and I didn't even think about it. Like, I was never, well, I think somebody said, like, oh, there's no base on there. And I was like, oh yeah, I just do it right on the wood. But then I lost points for that, I guess, when the judging came around. So now I would say, if you're in a sculpture competition, make sure it has a base that you clean up and that looks decent. Because I guess it's like the frame of a picture. It's just good to have. And it's not about the base, but if he doesn't have the base, it feels like it's missing something. And so that was a lesson I learned the hard way. But if you guys are interested in sculpture related stuff, make sure you send me your email. You can just message me your email on Instagram, and I'll add you to my email list. And that way, when I have, like, I'll send out an email on Monday for the competition that's starting, and I'll also try to reach out to those people that have messaged me on Instagram and send them a link in case, for those that are interested in participating. Because sometimes it is easier to sculpt something when you have a deadline, when there's like a date when you have to have it finished. So that's why I like these sculpture challenges, where it's like, turn it in by this date, and then there'll be a judging after, and sometimes it's just a little bit easier to get motivated to do the actual sculpting when that's the case. At least for me, that was the case. Like in college, when there's, you have a art project that's due by a certain time, it's just easier to find the time to work on it. Whereas afterwards, if you're working on an art project and you have work and you have, social media and entertainment that are always calling for you, sometimes it's a little bit harder to find that motivation to set aside the Instagram or whatever entertainment, YouTube or whatever it is, and actually do the work of creating something yourself. That can be kind of a challenging thing. So hopefully this sculpture group will be a solution to that. And I guess we'll see. people find that helpful. See if I've missed any. Yeah, again, on Instagram, if you have any specific questions or anything, let me know and I will try to answer those. But you have to press the little question mark, I think, so that it doesn't get lost in the comments or in the stream of people coming in and going out. Somebody says that they just jumped on and wanted to know what type of clay I'm using. Again, this is a non-drying modeling clay that I got from the Dollar Tree. It comes in a bunch of different colors. I just melted down the clay, everything but the darkest colors, and it gives me this brown, and I really like it. And it doesn't dry out, so it's not, you can't like bake it in a kiln and have a finished sculpture. You have to make a mold and cast it. But if you don't mind molding and casting, then it's a great clay to work with. And I like non-drying clays because I like to be able to take breaks from sculptures and then come back. And so if you're using a water-based clay, that can be tricky because it'll dry out and it'll, you know, if it dries out, then it's really hard to hydrate the clay again without ruining the project. So that's why I like this. But if I get a kiln, if I get like a kiln where I can bake sculptures and do porcelain sculptures or whatever type of natural clay sculptures, I'll probably do that more, because then you don't have to make a mold. You can just fire it in an oven and sell them, and that way you can make money by selling more of your sculptures. Whereas for me, I have to go through a lot of work to turn this piece of clay into a finished cast in plaster or resin or whatever material. And so the mold making process can be kind of expensive and it can be a pain. It's really easy to make mistakes, but if you get a good mold, then you can make several instead of having just one sculpture. So that is the benefit of making a mold. So I guess that was more than. Somebody's asking, do you take any life drawing classes? I have in the past. I really love them. If there were any in my area, I would definitely go. And if you have access to those and they're not too expensive and you can afford to go, then I definitely recommend going, because there is a benefit to observing the model from life that is hard to replicate through photos and through working online. It's just a better experience. If I get some funds to invest in hiring my own model, you know, and having the model come to the studio and being able to work directly from a model, I definitely like to do that, just because it's a better way to sculpt when there's the person there in 3D and you're not looking at a flat screen, and you just get so much more visual information from life than from photos. So if you have access to that, I definitely recommend doing it. And I have done classes in the past, though I haven't recently, or too recently. Let's see. Okay. Somebody says, will you be teaching a course on mold making, silicone plaster, mother molds? I may do that in the future. I have a couple courses that I have to address first, so I want to do. Right now, I'm working on finishing up the portrait sculpting course over at Proco.com. I have finished the figure sculpting course, so that one's all out, and we've released all the videos for that one, though I may come back and do some critique videos or something like that. After the portrait sculpting course, I want to do a course on sculpting the hands and feet, because those are tricky areas, and some people have shown interest in a course on that. Then after that, I want to do a course on anatomy for sculptors, so kind of go through the whole body and break it down and learn some of the anatomy of the figure. So so then that's the next course, and then after that, maybe a course on mold making, or maybe stone sculpting might be the one after that. So it's still probably a couple courses away if I get to it. The thing is, with mold making, I don't feel like, well, it's something that I should learn more about, because I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination. There's still a lot I have to learn, and I've said before that it could be its own course and should be its own course. So maybe I just probably need to go and study from some people that do it professionally, just so that I have better information and more experience before I can feel comfortable teaching a course. Because if I build a course, I want it to be the best course out there, and right now I don't feel like I could build the best course on mold making with the unless I know a little bit more than I know right now. But I do have a video on my method of mold making that's up on the Proco 3D YouTube channel, and it's how to make a mold for like cheap, and I think it was like $20-$30 worth of materials, and I show you how to make a mold of a little torso, a little male torso, and so if you're interested and you haven't seen that video, then I definitely recommend checking that one out. And that's basically the method that I use even for larger sculptures like this. Like if I make a mold of this one, which I will try to do, that's the method that I'll use. Okay, let me see if I've missed any other questions. Yeah, if you have questions on Instagram, you can push that that question mark symbol on the live, and that way it doesn't get lost in the comments. And then if you're one of the 3 viewers currently on YouTube, then you can also feel free to ask any questions that you have, and I'll just keep kind of tinkering with this sculpture. Gonna maybe move this a little bit closer. Yeah, this has been a fun one. This was a fun sculpture to do for the AJK sculpture competition. I'm excited to do some more in the near future. I don't want to make too big of changes right now because I don't have my references out, so I'm really just trying to fix any damage that I see that was done from when I was moving and I had to pack it up and put it away, and then hang it again. And just want to make sure I'm not. Somebody's saying very hard to get your first followers / viewers. That's definitely true. I remember on Instagram it took a long time to get the first like 1,000, and then after that it seemed to pick up. I've been thinking about trying to go live as well. Impressed. Yeah, well, yeah, I think go for it. You know, especially YouTube. I'm trying to focus more on YouTube lately, though. It's a different platform than Instagram, and I spent so much time and energy on Instagram, and then Instagram has kind of basically said that they don't want to push my content to new people. So now I used to be growing by a couple hundred every other week or something like that, but I was growing, and then since they've sent that notification to me, basically I haven't been able to reach new audiences on Instagram. So I do think I need to change focus to YouTube. And yeah, what I don't like is that they don't say exactly why or what you could do to fix it. They just said that they're not gonna, that my content has been like restricted from new viewers. And so, which I think that there's stuff, that's way more inappropriate than anything that I post that I find, that's open on Instagram and shared, and, it can be found, and yet my stuff is censored. So I don't think that's very reasonable, but I guess, like I said, that's just part of the system that we're working with. So we just do the best with what we have. Oh, there's a issue. Somebody says that they just, fortunately, I've seen the video just now. Have you used steel skeleton or an armature? Yes, I did use an armature. It's a aluminum wire armature underneath, and so it's the same wire that, let me show it up here. It's the same wire that's up here. The aluminum wire, it's like a thicker gauge aluminum wire, and that's what's inside the sculpture. If you're interested on my method for building wire armatures, there's a lesson on the Proco 3D YouTube channel. If you just type in PROKO, Proco, and then wire armature, or then I think that lesson will show up, and it's my favorite method for building wire armatures, and they're really useful because you can get all the proportions in place before you start sculpting, which is just really handy to do. Somebody says, yes, I've noticed that too. I assume they're talking about the Instagram, like not sharing posts with new audiences. And so, yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know. Well, you can only guess. And I imagine being an openly Christian conservative, and sharing posts that are maybe not popular with the people that run Instagram is maybe part of that, or people that run Facebook. They seem to like to censor that particular worldview, which is unfortunate for me. I guess it's okay if you're of different persuasion, but it could be that. It could be the sculptures, because I do sometimes sculpt the figure, the undraped figure, but they say in their guidelines that if it's a sculpture or a painting and it's not overtly sexual, it's not like erotic art, which I don't do, then it's okay. It's okay according to their standards. So they've said that, but then I still get marked as inappropriate content or things like that. So there is that issue. Yeah. So I think YouTube, well, I guess Google is also, kind of becoming censorious with their creators too. I guess it's all the big tech platforms, though. I guess Twitter is opening up and being a little bit more tolerant of free speech on different issues, which I think is good. Though I understand that means free speech means people will say things you disagree with. That's kind of the whole point. Things that are yeah. So if you haven't, if you're interested in joining those sculpture competitions, that'll be done through my Patreon page. You can go over to Patreon/Andrew Joseph Keith, or there's also a link in my bio on Instagram, or you can go to my links. If you're on YouTube, you can just go search Andrew Joseph Keith on Patreon, and I should show up. And we'll get a sculpture group going and do some sculpting competitions starting on Monday. I'm excited for this first one. It should be really fun. And every sculpture you do, you get just a little bit better. Somebody's asking what clay this is. Again, this is non-dry modeling clay. Non-dry oil-based modeling clay, also called plastiline or plasticine or plastilina. It's kind of all the same, just different names for the same thing. This one's pretty soft. I usually like a little bit firmer of a clay. This one's soft, but I actually like it better than some more expensive clays that I've tried. Okay, let's see. Yeah, this clay's a little bit soft. But if you're doing larger sculptures, then having a softer clay is helpful. Is that monster clay? No, this is just a non-dry modeling clay I got from Dollar Tree. It's one of the cheapest oil-based clays I found, and I like it. It's a decent clay. Okay, I think I'm gonna call it for this live stream. Again, I'm going to be posting the video that'll go over the competition that's starting on Monday and that'll go for 2 weeks. And if you're interested in that, go to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell and look for that on Monday. And you'll have 2 weeks to sculpt it. I'll do some more live streams during that competition. And it should be a really fun one. And you can, if you want to be eligible for the prizes, you can join my Patreon. And yeah, hopefully we can grow that group and keep doing these fun competitions more and more. And yeah, thank you guys. Stay creative, stay productive, and I'll see you in the next live stream. Peace out.